Will the family of Stacey Peterson get justice after her former husband is found guilty of murder? She's the fourth wife of former Illinois police officer Drew Peterson, who was convicted on Thursday of murdering his third wife, Kathleen Savio, back in 2004. Peterson charged in the death only after his fourth wife, Stacey, vanished in 2007. And Stacey's family hopes that the conviction will finally bring justice for them. David Schwartz is a defense attorney, former prosecutor. Vikki Ziegler is a civil attorney and adjunct professor at Fordham Law School. Great to have both of you here.
Thank you.
I'll be honest with you, this case, I covered this case. I've met Drew a number of times. He's a bit of a creepy character. But one juror is having trouble, at least in speaking out today, that the case was purely circumstantial, based on statements that wife number 4 made to her pastor and things wife number 3, who died in a dry bathtub, initially ruled an accident, had written down and told family members about her fears. Do you think, Vikki, that that was enough for a conviction? What could happen from here?
I mean, I think in the totality of the circumstances, generally, this is not the kind of conviction that we normally see. So I think from here, obviously, Drew Peterson's position is gathering his counsel, and they're going to probably try to file an appeal based on the fact that this hearsay evidence did come in, and that's largely what, in fact, convicted Drew Peterson, not the fact that, that there was really no direct evidence versus the circumstantial and the hearsay testimony. So I think that's going to be their biggest argument. Whether that wins, again, because we've heard Illinois, the appellate division has already spoken on this issue, that's for another day.
They even have a new law, David, in Illinois called Drew's Law, where you can speak from the grave, which is literally what happened here. And the question, I think, is, I don't know what remedies there could be for him after this, but how much weight does this conviction hold in pressing charges about Stacey Peterson, wife number 4, who's still missing, presumed dead?
Well, I don't think it should hold any weight at all, Jamie. Every case is different. Every fact pattern is different. And the reality of the circumstances are that this whole case may be overturned by an appellate division, because this law drives a dagger into the heart of the 6th Amendment of the United States Constitution. It drives a dagger in the most basic right that a criminal defendant has in the courts of our country, and that is the right to confront witnesses, the right to cross-examination. That is the most basic right, and what this law does, it really drives a dagger into that. We have opened up a tremendous slippery slope and a very dangerous precedent.
But the Supreme Court spoke on this, didn't they, David?
Well, yeah, well, the Supreme Court spoke on it. There is some dissent in there, but they didn't speak on this exact issue. And I think it's going to go back to the Supreme Court. And the 6th Amendment, and certainly Judge Scalia has really spoken up on this issue, on the right to confront witnesses, the right to cross-examination.
Sure.
This is extremely dangerous.
This is what our system is based on. Vikki, you're a professor,
yes,
right? So what do you tell your students when they say, okay, hearsay can come in, but if it's just hearsay, what do you tell them in terms of either prosecuting or defending a case that's purely based on this hearsay and circumstantial evidence?
I mean, it's so to me amazing, the Drew's Law codification that went into the federal rules of practice. We're also talking about common law forfeiture of wrongdoing, and that's been in existence in Illinois for over 167 years. So I think it's going to be an uphill battle in the appellate division, as well as going to the Supreme Court. But I would absolutely tell my students, you have to understand the hearsay laws, you have to understand the hearsay exceptions, because there are several of them, a dozen perhaps or so, 20 to 30. But you also really have to understand the facts of the case. And if, in fact, there is a situation like Drew's Law or the doctrine of the forfeiture of wrongdoing, understand the ramifications and how to get that evidence into the court. This case was purely a conviction by the jurors based on the fact that this hearsay evidence came in. Period. The end.
But there's another part of that too, Vikki. The case was based on the fact that years later they exhumed Kathleen Savio's body, did a second autopsy after the initial one was ruled accidental, and then brought the charges for the first time. And David, I want to tell you, when I was there, and tell me how you would handle a defendant like this. Drew was very cocky. He held a dating contest when he was already charged with a radio station to see who wanted to date him. I was inside his house, and he told me he's a good kisser. That's how he gets all of these women. He let me tour her closet. I looked under the bed. I was alone in the house with him. Nobody would be pleased with that. But he said and did a lot of things that led toward guilt. And the jurors suggested that a lot of that might have played a role in wanting to convict him.
Absolutely played a role, Jamie. He's a hateful human being, and the jurors picked up on that. And absolutely, as a defense attorney, you have to try to control your client as much as possible. I've had a tremendous amount of cocky defendants in the past, and you have to find a way to straighten them out. I don't fault the defense here because it seems like Drew Peterson, you couldn't do anything to straighten out his conduct.
And Vikki, what does it say about the case about Stacey Peterson? No evidence, no body. Where do they go from there?
It's going to be very difficult.
Do they bring charges?
Yeah, I think they do ultimately. I think the DA is looking at the hearing, the testimony that was taken in 2010, because he was found by Judge Wright by a preponderance of evidence to have killed Kathleen Savio and Stacey Peterson. The problem is, of course, as you said, there's no body. But as time goes on, it's been 5 years. She's missing. You know, there is a presumption that she may be dead, but there is no proof at this point. They're going to look at electronic data, phone records, and all the information that they're going to gather. And we hope that, you know, justice gets served.
I just hope that they stay on the case, because they're Bolingbrook Police and the police department, Illinois, very, very busy. Just one last thing. In their house, in the little girl's room, she had embroidered, it said, "I have an angel in my life, and his name is Daddy." There's kids here. Tragic story all the way around. Thanks for being with me.
Thank you.
David and Vikki, good to see you.
Thank you.
Eric?
Jamie, Pennsylvania.